Happy Thursday. We are one day away from the weekend, which for most of us is a very exciting day. I actually really like being here. And so when Thursdays and Fridays come, I'm like, can't wait for Monday. And that's really a true thing. I mean, sometimes it's tricky, but most of the time I'm like, oh, I really look forward to being with you guys. So I want to teach you a skill today. And we've been doing a little bit of writing about reading. One of the things that I think is really helpful when you read is to read with a pencil. It's kind of like you're thinking visibly. So reading with a pencil means that while you read, you have, in my case, it's a pen. And maybe you're like, I don't have a pencil, I need a marker. It's okay. But what I would like for you to try to do is think visibly by marking up your paper. Now, if you put marking all over your paper, it serves no purpose. So we have to sort of be a little bit particular about what we are going to mark. All right, now the reading that we're doing is a little bit different. It's not like we're picking up, this Wild Robot and we're getting lost in a book that we really love. We're actually picking up a packet today of stories that are short. In your case today, the story that you're going to be looking at is literally one page and then another page. It will take you all of like a couple of minutes, and we're going to do it together. All right? Because I want to model for you today that skill, which is writing about reading. I'm sorry, which is thinking with a pencil, reading with a pencil. Okay, so I'd like for you to pull out your A Stinky Plant Hike packet, and you're going to notice that Miss Nancy actually did some writing on the paper. She tried to erase some of it, but not very successfully and not very thoroughly, and so there's a lot of stuff still written on there. When you pick up a story in these types of pieces of writing, a lot of times it will say directions. Read this story. Now, when it says read this story, it usually means that you're going to read a story with a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's going to have characters and action and dialogue and thinking and a plot and a problem and a solution. It's going to have all that stuff, which means that you're going to think about this story differently than you would if you were going to pick up something that says, read this article. Suddenly, I'm learning about crazy critters, and I'm learning vocabulary words, and I'm looking at weird pictures, and I'm thinking about something completely different. In an article about crazy creatures or critters, there won't be any characters and action and dialogue and internal thinking, and there won't be any problem and solution. There's just going to be a lot of information about something, right? Today, we're going to read with a pencil about characters. Maybe a problem, a solution, maybe a plot. What I want you to do, and it takes practice, this does not happen very quickly, like, oh, it's easy, piece of cake, glass of milk. It takes a little bit of practice. So you might start underlining too much, and that's going to happen. So I want you to be very particular about what you mark on this paper. So you're going to take A Stinky Plant Hike. We are going to read it, and then you'll see that there are two opportunities for you to write about your reading. I'm going to have you do that part on your own. Before we read this, I want to read the questions because I want to know what I'm looking for. This says, why does Roger ask Mary so many questions? So I know I'd have to be thinking about two characters named Roger and Mary. And then there is the second question that refers to a little bit of dialogue, and they want to know why the author says, ew, what stinks? Why the author repeats, ew, what stinks in paragraph 1 and then in 19. I want to pay attention to that when I'm reading. All right? I'm actually going to circle right now paragraph 1, which is where all these numbers are. And I'm going to circle paragraph 19 because they're already circled. Because I did this last year. I'm going to do that because I think that's important for me. Now, that's part of my reading with a pencil, is preparing myself for information that I might need. But okay, I know I'm thinking about these two characters, like Mary and Roger, and I know I'm reading a fiction story. I even wrote fic up here because it's fiction. You can do that. And I'm gonna see what I can learn. All right, here we go. Now, feel free when you are doing this, you can do a check mark. You can underline, you can write something in the margin, you could circle something. And I'm gonna show you what I might do. Ew, what stinks? Mary exclaimed. Oh, I'm sorry, A Stinky Plant Hike by Anne Essenther. That might be important because maybe it's like by Roald Dahl. And I'll be like, oh, I know Roald Dahl. I read his books. So you wanna read that. A Stinky Plant Hike by Anne Essenther. Ew, what stinks? Mary exclaimed. Mary was hiking with her friend, Roger. Oh, I'm gonna underline Mary and I'm gonna underline her friend, Roger, because now I know that they're friends. Mary liked hiking with Roger because he knew about plants. Oh, now I'm understanding why this is called a stinky plant hike. There's something having to do with these two kids who are hiking and they're gonna be learning about plants. It was early spring. They walked along a narrow trail through wet, swampy land. A slow-moving stream wound beside the path. On the bank, Mary saw purplish-brown leaf-like hoods poking up from the soil, each one wrapped around a yellow, pulpy blob. To Mary, they seemed like aliens from another planet. She was curious and inched closer. I'm going to write uh-oh off to the side, because if this is called a stinky plant hike and she says ew, I'm thinking if she's getting too close, maybe something's going to happen. So I'm going to write uh-oh. You'll be sorry, said Roger. Mary leaned down. Oh no. She poked one with a stick. A foul odor met her nose. These smell like skunk, she said. Congratulations, said Roger. You've discovered skunk cabbage. The purple part is called the spathe. The yellow is the flower. But why does it smell so bad? Mary asked. What do you think? Roger replied. Mary thought for a moment. To keep people away? Think, said Roger, and look again. Mary thought for a moment. To keep people away, she said. Think. Oh, did I read that already? I took my eyes off the paper and I'm rereading it. Said Roger, and look again. Mary gazed at the strange-looking plants. Upon careful examination, she noticed flies, I checked it off, butterflies, I checked it off, bees, I checked it off, and beetles, I checked it off. I think there's something about the flies and the butterflies and the bees and the beetles that maybe Mary is not thinking correctly about what she thinks this plant smells so bad for. To attract insects, she said triumphantly. But why? Said Roger. Mary crinkled her eyebrows and she frowned. And I have no idea. I'm curious about this. Frowned slightly while she pondered his question. Slowly, a smile crept across her face. I know, she said. Pollen. I'm going to circle that because I think pollen is important, but I don't know. Right, Roger said. Some insects eat rotting things. They are attracted to stinky smells because to them it means there's food nearby. While they crawl around looking for food, they collect pollen. When they fly or crawl away, they bring the pollen to other plants. So the stinky smell of skunk cabbage fools them, said Mary. Right again, said Roger. Let's see what else we can find. They continued hiking, and soon Mary and Roger came to an open grassy field with sandy soil. As they walked along, they noticed tall grass-like plants dotting the landscape. Ew, what stinks? There it is again. Now I have a feeling this is going to be something that Mary's going to use what she knows to help her find some information, but I don't know. Mary asked again. Her shoe accidentally crushed the plant. The smell made her tears come to her eyes. This smells like garlic, she said. It's wild garlic, said Roger. How is it different from skunk cabbage? Well, it smells different, said Mary. Okay, good. What else? Roger asked. Well, the leaves are different, Mary said. What else? Roger asked again. Mary wiped her eyes and peered at the plant. She looked and looked, but she couldn't think of anything. No insects, said Roger. Why? Mary asked. The leaves of wild garlic contain sulfur-like compounds. They are released when the leaf is crushed. They are what make you cry. They also protect the plant by keeping the insects from chewing on the leaves, Roger exclaimed. Then Roger grinned. Well, let's go home and have some garlic bread, he said. Mary smiled. That stinks, she said. On the way back, Mary reviewed what she learned on their stinky plant hike. Plants stink for different reasons. For different, sometimes opposite reasons. Certain plants, like skunk cabbage, stink to attract insects, and other plants, like wild garlic, stink to keep them away. I love this passage. It's kind of like a fiction, but realistic fiction. So like it's sort of like a nonfiction fiction. I really like it a lot. Anyway, now what I'm going to ask you to do is take a look at what you underlined. Did it help you? Take a look at how you might have read with a pencil. Did it help you? And if it doesn't, I'd like for you to go back and reread, all right, on your own today. You are answering the 2 questions using restating the question, answering the question, give a detail, give a detail. Why does Roger ask Mary so many questions? Use the details from the story to support your response. And then read these 2 paragraphs from the story. Ew, what stinks, Mary exclaimed in paragraph 1. And ew, what stinks, Mary asked again. Her shoe accidentally crushed the plant. The smell made tears come to her eyes. Why does the author repeat, ew, what stinks, in paragraph 1 and 19? Use 2 details from the story to support your response. All right? I know this is a little bit tricky, but I have a feeling that today, it being the first day, there's going to be some learning happening because you're at this equilibrium right now. You're here and you want to get here. So when you're like, oh, I don't really understand, all the learning happens in this spot. Okay? So celebrate that. Be excited. And then what we'll do is we will review the answers in tomorrow's slide. Okay? All right. Have a lovely rest of your day.